Have you ever walked through stages where your strength seemed insufficient, yet you continued? Something within you sustained steps that logically shouldn't have been possible. That something is the presence of God, acting so naturally that sometimes you don't even realize it. When He is by your side, limitations become starting points, weaknesses become schools, and challenges become bridges to greater places. Nothing can stop someone who doesn't walk alone. There is a dimension of strength that arises when you understand that you don't depend solely on yourself. This understanding changes your posture, your courage, your vision. When God accompanies you, each step ceases to be solitary and becomes guided. You stop walking in fear of the future and begin to walk with confidence in your purpose. The impossible ceases to be a threat and becomes possible territory. His presence doesn't remove difficulties, but it transforms how you experience them. Where there was anxiety, direction begins to emerge. Where there was doubt, clarity is born. Where there was fear, courage appears. God doesn't paralyze you. He propels you forward. He doesn't take away the struggle, but He empowers you to overcome it. And that changes absolutely everything in the journey. With God, even what has worn you down begins to strengthen you. What was a stumbling block becomes a stepping stone. What tried to break you develops your resilience. Nothing is lost along the way because He takes advantage of everything. Your mistakes, your attempts, your advances, and even your setbacks. He molds you, refines you, and silently prepares you, making you someone much stronger than you realize. When God's presence accompanies you, you grow without realizing it. Your responses become more mature, your choices more conscious, your spirit more stable. Life ceases to be merely survival and becomes a process of building. You begin to understand that you don't need to be perfect to move forward. You only need to be aligned with the one who guides you. This gives you the boldness to keep going. Walking with Him also teaches you that no obstacle is too great when compared to the strength that sustains you. What seemed insurmountable begins to move. What intimidated you loses its power. What tried to paralyze you becomes just part of the scenery, no longer a decisive barrier. God doesn't allow anything to stop you when He Himself has directed you to walk. And so you can take a deep breath, lift your head, and move forward. When God is with you, nothing can stop what He has determined. Not inner fear, not insecurity, not delay, not doubt, not the surrounding circumstances. With God, you don't just continue, you move forward. And no one can stop someone who walks with divine purpose. Every challenge you faced could have been the end, but it became part of your journey. This didn't happen by chance. God was there, supporting your emotions, strengthening your thoughts, and guiding every decision, even those you couldn't explain. That's why you overcame things that other people wouldn't understand. And this resilience wasn't born from human strength, but from the divine strength that accompanies you in silence and steadfastness. When you realize that God is supporting your steps, fear ceases to dominate the narrative. It may still appear, but it no longer controls your story. Faith begins to speak louder than panic. Hope becomes stronger than doubt, and courage grows in places where only insecurity once existed. God doesn't promise that you won't feel fear, but He promises that fear will not have the power to paralyze you. His presence allows you to see situations from a different perspective. What once seemed too big now becomes a manageable obstacle. What once caused anxiety begins to teach you patience. Vulnerability ceases to be weakness and becomes a space for transformation. When God is with you, even your limitations become fertile ground for growth. With Him, even what seemed like confusion begins to reveal direction. Many times you thought you were lost, when in reality, you were being repositioned. God doesn't leave you trapped on paths that destroy your peace. He pushes you toward the right route, even when you resist. And in the end, you realize that each unexpected turn led you exactly where you needed to be. The scenarios that seemed to defeat you dissolved before your resilience, because God did not allow you to break. He strengthened you in moments that no one noticed, calmed you in situations where you could have crumbled, and guided you through unfamiliar terrain. This constant care is why you should trust. Nothing has stopped you so far, and nothing will stop you from now on. Today you realize that many victories were born precisely in the phases when you believed you were weak. This happens because God doesn't depend on your strength to guide you. He depends on your faithfulness. His grace makes you move forward when you no longer have emotional energy. His hand lifts you up when life pushes you down. His presence strengthens you when the ground shakes. And that's why nothing can stop you. Not because you'll never face challenges, but because you'll never be alone in them. God is always one step ahead, preparing the way, always one step beside you, strengthening you, always one step behind, watching over you. With Him, you not only overcome, you grow, and you grow without fear of what lies ahead. There are areas of life where no matter how hard you try, you simply can't move forward. This doesn't mean incapacity, it means human limitation. And it is precisely at this limitation that God begins to act. He opens paths where you have no access, solves things you couldn't solve, moves pieces you didn't even know existed. When God decides to act, what seemed closed becomes a passage, and what seemed impossible becomes natural. The secret lies in understanding that you don't need strength for everything. God doesn't expect you to do alone what He has reserved for you to do. There are doors you could never push open with your own strength, but which open with a simple touch of His hand. And when that happens, you realize it wasn't skill, it wasn't strategy, it wasn't luck, it was divine guidance. God sees dimensions you don't. He knows what's behind the door. He knows who awaits you in the next cycle. He knows which battles you wouldn't win alone. That's why He prepares paths, even before you are aware of them. He aligns people, opportunities, scenarios, and timing so precisely that when the moment finally arrives, everything falls into place, as if it had always been planned, because it was. Often you can't move forward because you're trying to open doors that aren't yours, and God, out of love, prevents it. He closes paths that seem good, but that would divert you from your purpose. He protects you from routes that would tire you and lead you nowhere. When He closes a door, it's not rejection, it's direction. And when He opens a door, nothing and no one can close it. This movement of God is not always visible. Sometimes He works in silence, moving things that you will only notice months later. But the result always appears. Paths become clearer, your mind gains more peace, decisions become easier. The mark of God's action is precisely this gentleness. What once required strength now flows. What was heavy now becomes possible. God also opens pathways within you. He breaks down emotional blocks, heals deep fears, broadens your vision, and strengthens your self-esteem. Many of the greatest external victories only happen after an internal revolution. God works on the level of the soul before working on the level of circumstances. And when the inner self changes, the outer self follows. That's why nothing can stop you, because the paths you will take depend not only on effort, but on purpose. And purpose is something that God sustains. He guides you, protects you, positions you, and opens doors that you could never open on your own. When God is in the lead, there is no definitive obstacle. There is only a passage waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Life has tried to knock you down more times than you admit. Situations that drained your strength, moments that shook your self-esteem, phases that tested your faith, and yet you persevered. This perseverance didn't come from your natural resistance, but from the strength God placed within you. Those who persevere aren't necessarily stronger. They are more sustained. And when God sustains, no storm can tear it away. Perseverance is one of the greatest proofs of faith. It means continuing to believe even when the path is difficult. It means maintaining purpose even when everything seems contrary. It means holding on tight even when fear tries to creep in. God honors those who persevere, because persevering is declaring, I trust in you above all circumstances. This kind of faith moves mountains, both internal and external. When you learn to persevere, the pressure around you begins to lose its power. What once shook you now serves only as a sign that you are growing. God strengthens your mind, stabilizes your heart, and gives you the emotional maturity to endure battles that once paralyzed you. You don't persevere because life has become easier. You persevere because your faith has deepened. Persistence also unlocks things that haste could never achieve. Some purposes are only revealed to those who don't give up halfway. There are things that God only gives to those who learn to wait, to walk steadily, to trust without seeing. Persistence is the bridge between promise and real life. It sustains your steps until God's time is revealed. And remaining doesn't mean standing still. It means continuing to evolve even when there aren't big signs. It's about growing in silence, advancing internally, maturing emotionally, developing vision. God values those who remain because He knows that only those who remain are ready to receive what He has already prepared. Remaining is evidence of spiritual maturity, and you have shown that every day. With God, remaining steadfast isn't tiring, it's strategic. He gives you strength when you lack strength, peace when you lack logic, direction when you lack clarity. That's why you didn't break down during phases that seemed definitive. God held you from within in a way no one saw. This invisible support is proof that nothing can stop you from now on. Those who remain with God become unshakable, not because they are perfect, but because they are sustained, not because they have all the answers, but because they know the one who does. Nothing defeats someone who has learned to persevere, and you are exactly at that level of strength. With God, you don't just endure, you move forward. Many people think that God only acts when we are strong, stable, and confident. But the truth is exactly the opposite. He works masterfully precisely where you feel weak. Your insecurities, your doubts, your limitations, none of that drives God away. On the contrary, it is in these areas that He reveals the most power. What the world sees as weakness, God transforms into ability, resilience, and clarity. With Him, what once brought you down becomes part of your strength. Your weaknesses teach humility, dependence, and depth. They show you that you don't have to carry everything alone, that you don't have to handle everything, that you don't have to pretend you're always okay. God doesn't demand perfection, He demands surrender. And when you surrender even what doesn't work, He transforms what seemed like a weak point into a firm foundation. God builds upon vulnerabilities, not to expose them, but to strengthen them. When you understand this, the weight lessens. The internal pressure weakens. The feeling of inadequacy loses its power. You stop fighting with yourself and begin to cooperate with God's process. He doesn't expect you to be invincible. He expects you to be sincere. Sincerity opens doors that self-sufficiency never could. God does much with little, and you are proof of that. Many of your victories didn't come because you were at your best, but because God sustained you on your worst days. He gave you peace when you were lost, encouragement when you lacked strength, and direction when you lacked clarity. That's why you moved forward even when tired. You triumphed even when hurt, and you continued even when you didn't understand. That's how God works. He strengthens you along the way, not before it. With God, even your mistakes become lessons, and your fears become fuel. You learn about yourself, mature, evolve, and grow in ways you wouldn't have if everything were perfect. God uses every detail to shape your identity, aligning who you are with who you are becoming. He transforms you with patience, care, and purpose. And none of that depends on your perfection. Your weaknesses also play an important spiritual role. They prevent you from relying solely on yourself and remind you to trust in Him. When you acknowledge your limitations, you open space for God's power to manifest. And when He manifests, nothing can stop you. The strength that comes from Him sustains, uplifts, and guides. It is a strength that never ends, never fails, and doesn't depend on your mood or circumstances. That's why, with God by your side, even what you consider your greatest difficulties become bridges to something greater. God doesn't demand that you be strong all the time. He makes you strong at the right time, and that strength is indestructible. Many things that didn't work out in your life weren't failures. They were protection. What you perceived as a closed door was God protecting you from a fall you couldn't withstand. He saw conversations you didn't hear, intentions you didn't perceive, and paths that would lead you to ruin. That's why he guided you, and even without understanding it at the time, today you realize it was care disguised as an interruption. God protects you silently, strategically, and continuously. He delivers you from environments that would drain your energy, from people who would hurt your soul, and from decisions that would limit your destiny. Sometimes you feel that something doesn't fit, but that's the Spirit preserving you. God doesn't allow you to remain where your essence would die, and He doesn't let you advance where your peace would be broken. God's care isn't just evident in grand things, it's in the details. It appears in that nagging feeling that makes you change course, in that intuition that stops you from persisting, in that pause you don't understand. He works in an invisible realm, aligning each step before you take it. Nothing is random. Everything is guided by a love that sees beyond the present moment, and that's precisely why nothing can stop you. Because before anything can reach you, God is already ahead of you. He anticipates danger, places Himself between you and what would harm you, closes paths that don't belong to you, and illuminates routes you don't yet know. This constant protection is the reason you withstood moments that could have brought you down. Divine protection also works within you. God guards your mind, calms your thoughts, and stabilizes your emotions. He prevents small fears from becoming great prisons. He teaches you to breathe deeply when anxiety tries to take over. He gives you clarity when doubt tries to confuse you. This inner protection is as strong as the outer one, and just as necessary. With God, you are never vulnerable. Even if you seem exposed, you are protected. Even if you seem fragile, you are safe. His hand not only guides you, it covers you. His protection not only accompanies you, it surrounds you. God doesn't just protect your path, He protects you. And when He protects, nothing that comes against you prospers. That's why you can move forward with confidence. Nothing can stop you because God not only walks beside you, He protects you completely. He sees what you don't see, prevents what you can't imagine, and preserves what is essential. You are protected on every level. When God builds your courage, something profound changes within you. Situations that once paralyzed you now become simply part of the journey. Fears that once controlled you lose their power. Insecurities that limited your voice begin to disappear. God develops you emotionally in such an intense way that you begin to see challenges as opportunities, not as threats. This inner transformation is the mark of those who walk with God. He not only strengthens you, He changes your identity. You cease to be someone who reacts to fear and become someone who responds with faith. Assertiveness grows, clarity increases, maturity expands. You become firmer, deeper, more aware of the potential you carry within yourself. God also broadens your vision. He enables you to see beyond what lies ahead, helps you interpret processes, and recognize the hidden purpose in each step. When this vision expands, the impossible ceases to be a wall and becomes a door waiting for the right moment. What once seemed unattainable begins to seem like just a matter of time, and you begin to walk with that confidence. The impossible only intimidates those who believe they are alone. You are not. God is with you, guides you, and propels you forward. He reminds you, often silently, that there is no situation where He cannot act. This awareness makes you walk with greater confidence. When you understand who is with you, you also understand that nothing before you is greater than the one who sustains you. With this spiritual strength, no difficult phase becomes definitive. You become someone who, even tired, continues. Even wounded, moves forward. Even without signs, believes. This kind of strength doesn't come from self-confidence. It comes from faith in God. He plants in you a conviction that moves you even when life tries to stop you. When God strengthens you from within, you become unstoppable from the outside. Obstacles cease to be ends. They become transitions. Fear ceases to be a break. It becomes an alert. Pressure ceases to be a threat. It becomes training. God prepares you to win battles that you previously wouldn't have had the courage to face. And this courage is what opens the next chapters of your story. That's why nothing can stop you. God is not just with you, He is within you, shaping a strength that does not break, does not surrender, and does not retreat. With this strength, the impossible becomes possible, and the future ceases to be a threat and becomes a promise. If this message touched your heart, understand, this is no coincidence. God is reminding you that nothing can stop you when He walks beside you. What seemed like an obstacle will become progress, and what seemed like a limit will reveal its purpose. You are growing, becoming stronger, and becoming someone whom even the impossible cannot intimidate. And if you wish to continue receiving words that build your faith and renew your hope, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Here, each video is another step on your journey with God.